So we've been talking about all of these issues as regarding the Nigerian economy, but this government has criticized the PDP, for example, the platform you are riding on, as though they perform woefully in terms of the spendings on infrastructure. This government will tell you that they've spent over ₦1 trillion on infrastructure. You are from the southeast. They will tell you that a major factor that your people are talking about, they started work on it.
So when they talk about the amount of money they spend on infrastructure, the question I ask, where is the infrastructure? Where is the infrastructure? Where is the spending? If I give you the amount this government have borrowed, the amount they've borrowed, in 3 years, you could see from Debt Management Office, the borrowing have increased by 115%. So when they came in, we're looking at about 11.something trillion. Today it's 22.7 trillion. And they say that all their borrowing is for capital projects. That's what it's supposed to be. So on the average, 2016, 2017, they've borrowed almost 10 trillion. And if you look at the infrastructure spending in these 2 years, it's actually under 3 trillion. So we're 7.
Are you talking about the FG borrowing, or you're talking about Nigeria's borrowing? Because state governments are borrowing also. You're talking about the federal government. I'm not certain about that figure, though. The 10 trillion you talked about.
Federal government borrowing in the past 2 years is at least thrice the capital project expenditure. I'm not saying about the budget, expenditure. And I want to know, where are those capital votes? Where are those capital projects that have been executed?
Have you,
have
you driven along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway?
No. Is that the only project that...
Have you used any of the... Have you seen any of the rails that they said it's done?
I've used it. Oh, no, the rails, let me tell you. Don't go into the rails. The rails are being funded by our facilities from China. Mainly, just like the airports that is being completed. The reason why you see the airport projects going on even without delay is because all the counterpart funding that was supposed to be paid to the loan were paid by PDP government.
All?
Quote me anywhere.
But I mean, you might not be so right in some sense. You know why?
All the airport projects was being financed from borrowing from China, and there's a counterpart funding which Jonathan's government paid.
We they generated, and this government concluded plans on it, isn't it?
Concluded what?
Jonathan government started. But this government...
I said they've not put anything on it. The counterpart funding has been paid. It's been paid.
Are you talking airports? What about the rails?
Even the rails.
There are 4 different rail projects that we know now. Are you aware?
Which of them?
The Lagos Ibadan. The rail, according to them, is almost in Ibadan.
Can you go and look at the conception of those rails and the inputs in them and the amount of... I'm just telling you that the capital expenditure annually does not... Don't worry, say about this. I'm sure when the campaigns are going on, we'll discuss all these issues and you'll see it.
Right. I mean, the development experts around the world will say there's nothing wrong with borrowing. If you're borrowing within the limit, you cannot... In fact, development experts will tell you that you cannot embark, you can't use your money to do some development project. Is usually they advise that you borrow to do some project. Are you saying borrowing is a no-no? Your government will not borrow.
Don't go there, Shehu. I'm a businessman. And I believe I know a lot about borrowing. I'm also from the finance background. Borrowing is critical. When you borrow for productivity, then it's allowed. When you borrow for consumption, then you have a crisis. The reason why you are seeing IMF today, Shehu, in 2017, May 1, I spoke at the platform and I shouted and warned about our borrowing. Nobody took it serious because, of course, I'm nobody. But today, IMF, World Bank, everybody is warning Nigeria against its borrowing.
What would you do
The
differently?
reason is,
What would your government, if you win the election, what would you do differently?
If it must borrow, it must be clearly defined on the project that the borrowing is attached. And it must be followed, the program must be strictly followed to its conclusion. And it must be productive and contributed to the economy. Here we were borrowing, Shay. There's no country I know that I've studied where you're borrowing and your GDP or your value is going down. When this government came into being, our GDP was over $500 billion. Our per capita was about over $2,500. Today, it's gone down to about $380. Our per capita come about $1,900, and we have accumulated more debt. Look at our debt servicing today. Can you go and look at our debt servicing to our revenue? Don't look at our GDP.
All right.
There's nothing wrong in borrowing. So we have countries that have over-borrowed, even the countries that use, for example, like China and everything. Of course, China's debt to GDP is about 48%.
All right.
Ours is 20%. But where is the money?
Okay.
You can see where the Chinese one is spent. You can see where the Indonesian one is spent. Even in America, they have almost 100%.
Mr. Obi, let's round up the conversation now because we're out of time. Now, in 30 seconds, if you can tell Nigerians the reason why they should vote your government, you're an economic expert. In 30 seconds, if you can tell Nigerians, what will be that major thing that is critical that you will resolve in 6 months, should you win this election?
Thank you. So that Nigeria can start working again, we'll tackle issue of power aggressively.
How many megawatts are you promising?
We're not going to promise 20 or 30. I can assure you that today, no investment has been done to that sector, no proper policy or program has been executed there. We will put in place what will at least show a very significant increase without putting any number to it. And Nigerians will see it. What we want to do is to move from policy formulation to program implementation. And it will be aggressive. And people will see it. Tackling jobs, tackling issue of poverty. We will see the numbers of poverty reduce. That's what is happening in every country.
Okay. We are definitely out of time, but we would love to engage you more because there are a lot of issues that we couldn't touch on. Time is not our friend on the program. Mr. Peter Obi, the vice presidential candidate of the PDP. It's a pleasure having you on a day as this.
Thank you. I wish Nigerians all the best.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
The vice presidential candidate of the PDP, Mr. Peter Obi, coming on the show, the first one for the year. In the coming years, it's going to be very interesting in the coming days. So stay with us right here on Channels Television. And thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye. Tonight, still around the 2019 elections, the main opposition PDP is confident of defeating the ruling APC at the 2019 polls. Tonight, we shall be talking to the PDP's vice presidential candidate and former governor of Anambra State, Mr. Peter Obi. He joins us in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much for coming on the program tonight.
Thank you, Sam.
Happy New Year to you.
And Happy New Year to you. And to all Nigerians, Happy New Year.
Is it that your party is jittery? It looks like the criticism is that your campaign has fallen on his face and that things are no longer working for your party. That's the criticism coming from the APC.
Well, Sherry, I don't know where the criticism is coming from. Because actually, how you live in Nigeria. Can you go and search for Nigerians? I don't want us to be, trying to go around, mocking around the issues. The issue is that PDP is campaigning. And what we want the APC government to do is to show Nigerians what they've been doing in the past 3 years. It is not about, they should not bother about the affairs of PDP. That's not what it is all about. They are elected on the basis of their promise to the people 4 years ago. And that's what people want to know. How far, where are the achievements?
So your party's campaign, because they said the now popular Dubai strategy is not working. It looks so much that you slowed down.
What is the Dubai strategy?
We understand that some members and leaders of your party were meeting with your candidate in Dubai. They had a strategy meeting last year.
Last year, and you're talking, when last year? It depends. You don't go about issue of Dubai, London, Japan have nothing to do with what is at stake here. We have millions of Nigerians who don't know where the next meal will come from. And you're talking about whether there's a strategy in Singapore and everything. That is not the issue in this campaign. The issue in this campaign is about millions of unemployed Nigerians. You just watch the recent job unemployment and everything that was released. It's gotten worse. That is what should bother everybody. What should bother us that Shegun, for the past 2 months, our universities are closed. That's what should bother us. Not the issue of whether there's a strategy in Dubai or this. No, it shouldn't.
Let's talk about what your party hopes to do differently. You've talked about, for example, the issues of, you mentioned the issues of workers, especially the university workers, and the issues of minimum wage is a major one. If you look at it, what would you say is the most preferred or the sensible minimum wage that your party will be willing to offer?
Sharon, I won't say anything to that except that we will engage both the university side and the labor in a more constructive way where everybody will see reason. Sharon, I have been able to engage workers in the past in a constructive way. There must be issues that border on giving proper attention to issues that are critical to this country. I don't think enough attention is being paid to the issues you just mentioned.
Nigeria definitely has an over-bloated civil service, isn't it?
You can make it work. You can make it to be productive. There's nothing that is about being over-bloated. Yes, there might be issues, but they can make it work. You can decide to make every worker, every employee to be productive.
How would you do that?
Of course, engage them properly. You can look at all those things. Make everybody feel a sense of, this is our number. In order for us to be properly remunerated, we must be able to do A, B, C, E, F.
50,000, 40,000? What figure would you say is a reasonable, considering the economic situation of the country and the purchasing power of an average Nigerian? For a Nigerian worker, what amount do you think is reasonable for a minimum wage?
So you said, for me, minimum wage, I said, we have to engage constructively. Minimum wage doesn't have to be universal. That I don't believe in. I don't believe that somebody in Lagos should earn the same thing as somebody maybe in Anambra State or somebody in Maiduguri.
So you'll be advising your principals.
Yes.
If you win, if you win this election, what would you be advising?
We would sit down with labor to find a constructive and acceptable position.
But the government sat down with labor. No, the state government are not agreeing. The state government said, some of the state governors say that they cannot cope. You've been a state governor for 2 terms.
Yes. And I said it, I was actually one of the committee, a member of the committee that sat on the last minimum wage. And I argued that and said, listen, every state is not the same. Every state won't pay the same.
So each state should determine what it will pay its own worker.
Precisely. But it has to be...
There has to be a minimum, isn't it? A federal minimum.
There has to be a federal minimum. Then each state working within this minimum can decide where they should go. That's what is obtainable all over the world.
What amount do you think should be a minimum for Nigeria?
I can tell you, the Sheikh is not what I will answer you here, but I'm sure we'll be able to come out with what is acceptable. Because I know we'll sit down and discuss it constructively with the labor. I
know you've criticized, because I'm taking you on issues that is relating to the office of the vice president,
yes,
which you are running for. I know you've criticized what they call underpayment in the issues of subsidy, and which maybe this government would not like to refer to argument what the pump price of petrol. You have openly criticized the manner in which this government has handled that. That means you will not be paying anything aside that. It then invariably, economically, means that Nigerians may have to pay more for price. Are you thinking of increasing fuel price?
Go and investigate what is being paid in subsidy. And I say it categorically, we're paying for inefficiency. Period. It has nothing to do with what you're saying. When people talk about subsidy, say no country. This government had just recently launched a bogus policy on education, a bogus policy on health. Then go and just check the just presented 2019 budget. Health is 340 billion, 341 billion, and education is about 460 billion. So if you put health and education, which is the most critical component of development of any economy, if you put the two of them together, there is 800 billion when you're paying over $1 trillion in subsidy. It is unacceptable. No other country in the world.
How would you then tackle that issue? Because it's a big one. If you're not paying it, we might be paying average Nigeria might be paying more for pump price.
No, Shay, we're paying for inefficiency.
So what would you do?
If you remove it, I can assure you, within a year of efficient management of that process, the price will be what it is today, if not less.
So if you remove it, I mean, you studied economics.
Let me give you an example. Yeah. Part of what we are paying is the demurrage they pay at the port. If a vessel comes into our port today to discharge, it takes weeks. That's part of what we're paying. So when they talk about subsidies, talk about this, that is inefficiency.
But in the immediate, should you win this election, if you get into power, how would you tackle it?
You deal with inefficiency.
What inefficiency? In what way? You just mentioned one, the issue of demurrage.
Let me just give you an example. Not just issue of inefficiency, the corruption that is associated with it. Everything has to be transparent. And I can tell you, if Nigerians are going to pay today is how much?
We pay about how much?
No, what do we pay today? About 145. Mm-hmm. Even if Nigerians are going to pay temporary 150, I can tell that they can take it and have 13.5 million children out of school.
But you have
87 million.
You are agreeing that Nigerians will have to pay more, isn't it?
No. I'm not saying they will. I said if they have to do so temporary, you come down. When we were talking about telephone, for example, we know where it started. Shell today is almost free. Of course, when you started, there might be a little bit more. But if you follow it through and do the proper thing, I can convince you, Shell, the price will come down. What we're paying today is for inefficiency. It's period. And it's like that in virtually everything. I said it before. Say, if a trailer to go into a Papa port just to bring out goods, it takes 2 weeks. So a trailer that will charge you to bring out your goods from a Papa port, instead of charging you 200,000 naira, will charge you almost 1 million, because it takes him 2 weeks to go in and by the week to come out. So it calculates. Where does that happen, Sherry?
So you resolve that?
We couldn't even, for 3 years, we could not clear our trailers from a Papa port to Ikorodu. It doesn't make sense.
You do that, and how long will it take you to resolve that?
What can you say? Removing trailers. It's not a rocket science. Why do we make everything difficult in this country? And you say, asking me how long will it take you to do?